Hello, welcome to another episode of our Digital Somerset podcast. My name's Shane Griffiths and I'm here with my buddy Jeremy Hyams.
How you doing, guys?
You alright, buddy?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm really good, really good. I'm really excited for today's episode. So thanks again for tuning in. As you know already, if you've watched this before, the podcast, we like to chat with entrepreneurs or interesting business leaders across Somerset. Sort of dive into their background, find out what they're up to, maybe get some tips and tricks and find out how they do things, and hopefully it could influence or inspire some of you to do something similar, or just find out and hang out and just all that good stuff, right? So Jeremy, you said that you're out of you're gone caffeine free.
10 days.
How are you feeling?
Pulsating headaches.
Right.
Shakes an hour over.
Okay.
Lots of water. But I'm super tired in the afternoons. I think it's because I'm getting old.
Just the energy that we need then for a nice Friday afternoon podcast. So today we're joined with a really good friend of ours, Harry Singer from Singer Instruments. Hey Harry, how you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going?
You got your coffee? You all armed?
I am
you got your
absolutely
tea.
delighted to be drinking this lovely cup of tea, Jeremy.
How much caffeine has it got in it?
Oh, not a lot. Just enough, I think. Yeah.
I don't think, does tea actually have that much caffeine in it? I have no idea.
Has loads.
Has it? Well, not as much as coffee though, right?
Don't know. But green tea has probably the most. So look, I've got a question. So Harry, when I first met you, you were doing this speech, and your opening line was, Harry Singer, from Singer Instruments. I don't sell sewing machines, and I don't sing, and I don't sell musical instruments. But that's not technically true, is it, Harry? One of those bits is...
I'd like to start off by saying I am delighted to be here, Jeremy, and it's great to see you again too. The first time I saw you, you approached me after I did that talk, and I thought you were some mad guy off the streets. I'm sorry to announce that here right now.
You probably weren't that far wrong, actually.
Little did I know, but I'm delighted to be here, guys. Thanks ever so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Harry. It means a lot. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of, introduce yourself, I guess, for anyone that doesn't know who you are.
So you're right, I don't make sewing machines. Singer Instruments have nothing to do with musical instruments either. I try and play the guitar and the ukulele, but I'm not very good. My concentration tongue gets in the way of my singing quite badly.
We have found video evidence of you doing this, though.
Let's not see that. Let's not. Yeah, don't pull that out of the bag. So Singer Instruments designs, builds, and sells laboratory robotics around the world. Our mission is through robotics, to accelerate lab research for biologists who want to make the world a better place.
Wow. That's about as good as that's punchy, saving the world. I like that. It's better than what I usually come up with for my business.
Thanks, guys.
Sounds really, really interesting. And whereabouts are you based?
We are based in the middle of nowhere at the moment. We are in a lovely little village called Roadwater, which is about 10-minute drive from Minehead. And
something seems to have happened to your broadband, because last time I spoke to you were struggling, but it seems like we've got a good connection now.
I'm at home. Yeah, the broadband at work is a bit better. My broadband at home is awesome, thankfully. Yeah. Good.
So one of the things that we always kick things off with, I think it's just, obviously it's relevant. You run a business, you've obviously got lots of employees, you've got premises and overheads. How's the last 12 months been for you, or the last 18 months, I suppose? What's your perspective on everything, and how have you handled it?
The last 18 months through the pandemic's been really, really interesting, incredibly challenging, but really interesting. We are so lucky, and I don't want to get complacent, but we're so lucky to be in the space we're in right now. Obviously, the transformational power of biology has been made painfully clear during this period. And we're one of those companies who happen to be in the right place at the right time. Healthcare, green manufacture, biofuels, investment into these spaces is just going through the roof. So we are very, very thankful to be continuing with our growth trajectory, regardless of the conditions we find ourselves in.
Wow. Well, that's really good to hear, you know, and it's good that you've been able to kind of push through that. So how have you sort of set your working practices? You know, have you switched to a remote setup? Have you had people working from home? And how does that work when you're kind of doing a lot of manufacturing and sort of highly collaborative stuff like that?
Yeah, good question. We had to furlough a bunch of staff for a bit. Operations, which is the day-to-day production line, they had to go home for a bit. But then we got a skeleton crew back in, working on shifts to make sure we continued supporting our global customer base who were doing preclinical COVID research and screening for drug targets. And then slowly but surely we introduced the rest of the team. We use technology a lot anyway, so everyone was used to continuing meetings via Zoom and stuff like that. We just adopted this hybrid model that we're all getting used to. And I think more people are more comfortable working from home.
Yeah.
But we rely on hardware. We've got, 3D printers, laser cutters, a suite of CNC robotics that cut metal.
You need to stop there. You need to stop there. I could see Shane I see the twinkle in his eye.
No, we are spoiled, but we need those tools for rapid prototype development. And fast feedback product iteration, and it really helps to have brains under one roof. So we were keen to get back in the building as soon as possible. Our health and safety team have been amazing to make that happen, even through COVID. At one point we were all wearing masks and visors, and it was a bit of a ball ache, but at least it got us all back in the same building working on cool robotics.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool.
How many brains under one roof?
I think it's about 50 now, and we've run out of space. So,
wow.
One of our big challenges through lockdown was my challenge is removing barriers to growing the business. The biggest barrier recently has been that space to grow. And as much as I absolutely love working in the Shire and the scenery and the feeling of being on holiday all the time that comes with it, one of the disadvantages is there isn't that pipeline for business growth.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we hear about time and time again when it comes to this region. It's just unfortunate that is the way it is for the time being. And yeah, I remember the last time we were on a call together, can't remember what it was about, Tech Southwest maybe or something else, and you were talking about how you were looking for new premises and how the council might be able to assist in some way, and there was a bit of potential partnerships going on. Are you able to talk much about that or where that ended up?
Yeah, sure. So, we've got a stepping stone plan to get us out of Dodge. Somerset County Council, thank you very much, found us a property on an innovation site in Minehead.
Right.
It's nowhere near as big as we need it. It's 5,000 square foot, and what we ideally wanted was to move all of our staff to a 25,000 square foot premises. But we've taken on this new 5,000 square foot building on top of our existing premises. So we're going to have to split the teams, but there is a logical split to be done, and we're just going to have to figure out organically the mechanics of that split. I think it can work, but it's going to buy us 2 years, maybe 3 years of growth before we need the big building. So I'm chatting a lot to Taunton and Somerset West, who have been amazingly supportive, even though they haven't got that pipeline. And I'm talking a lot to Somerset County Council, who are being super, super supportive as well.
And is the goal to stay within Somerset, or, could there be a situation where you just have to face reality and that you actually have to kind of leave the county,
That's a good question. In an ideal world, we'd love to showcase to the rest of the UK that an SME like ours can thrive in the middle of the Shire. So I would love to stay in the Shire with the problems that brings with it, recruitment, transport and stuff like that. I still think it can work. So I would absolutely love to have this awesome premises, this mini kind of science park in the Shire. But I've got to, do my risk mitigation and come up with some options that aren't in the Shire in case that plan falls through. So for sure, we're looking at really exciting sites like Gravity in Bridgewater. Nexus should be coming online. I don't know when that's going to happen. 3-4 years time.
That's just right next to me. Nexus.
Yeah.
We've got Paul who's running that site at Gravity coming on as one of our guests at some point. Some point soon,
fantastic! He's such a smart, really inspiring guy.
Yeah.
You'll have a good chat.
Yeah. Well, I asked him when we went to see his site. It must have been over a year ago, right? It was maybe a year and a half ago. He was telling us all about it, and I was, well, what's your, where's your competition? And he said, probably the nearest competition is Silicon Valley, and I'm like, nah, I like that.
No, that is pretty cool. He took me around the site in his car, and they were decommissioning the land, and you'll never believe how they do it. They were digging up the soil and attacking it with flamethrowers. That's how you decommission old blast test sites.
Wow.
Yeah, a load of blokes out there with flamethrowers.
Just set the whole thing on fire.
Yeah.
Love that.
And Harry, you've got other premises outside of the UK, or is that?
Yeah,
so
we've got applications, laboratories and offices around the world, just a few of them, and they're pretty small, but it helps us support our customer base across all global territories in the different timescales. So we've got a lab and an office in California, we've got one in Germany, we've got one in Singapore, and we've got our headquarters in the middle of fucking nowhere in Roadwater, in Somerset, and I love it. And now, Minehead.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it makes me chuckle because the first time I met you, and you said that you were based in Roadwater, and I live in Somerset, have done most of my life, and it was a place I've never heard of. I thought you were just kind of making up a name of a place, and turns out that I'm actually not that far from it myself, but it's a pretty remote location, isn't it? And I bet there's a fair few of people that live in Somerset that probably don't know about Roadwater and where it is.
I'm
outside
sure
of
there are,
Wiveliscombe, isn't it?
but I'm putting Roadwater on the map, and I give it such.
You are, mate.
Check my T-shirt out. So we've got Roadwater. That's putting it. Even got it on the T-shirt. We got California, Singapore, Germany. There we go.
And Roadwater.
Yeah, that's a very cool logo. That's
Actually,
a good
I would wear that T-shirt. You should set up a merch store. I would love to buy that T-shirt. Love that.
So have you got people in those countries, or is it just offices? Do you have any?
Yeah, we did until they all got poached. So there's this big company called Thermo Fisher Scientific, and they're growing even faster than we are, and they've got really deep pockets, and so they've been offering some of my overseas staff like 4 times the salary to go and work for them. So we recently lost our amazing guy called Nipesh, who's Nepalese originally. We lost him to Thermo Fisher, and I lost another guy in Singapore, Chong, who is an absolute legend, such a good cook. He went on cooking programs in Singapore because of his culinary expertise. I lost him to Thermo Fisher as well. So we're currently recruiting for those positions, as well as a load of positions in Somerset, if there are any smart engineers out there who fancy a job.
Cool, yeah. Well, tell us a bit about it. What are you looking for?
So we're always looking for smart software developers who want to transition from games, we love gaming technologies, to the world of robotics and making the world a healthier place. So software developers, we're looking for engineers, senior mechanical engineers, junior mech engineers, techie positions. There are always some techie positions open. Yeah.
And do you
Biologists as
usually do you have a bit of a sort of graduate program? Do you sort of do you look to the universities and colleges for those entry positions and sort of nurture, and is that sort of your thing, or do you not?
I think if you're in the Shire where workforce is hard to come by, you have to have a full portfolio feeding that recruitment funnel all the way from schools. And I love going into schools and talking to children about the power of biology. So all the way from schools, we take on a lot of work experience students. One of our most successful programs to date is funded by the BBSRC, the Biological Research Council. They've got a program called the PIPS Intern Program. So it's for PhD, early stage researchers doing PhDs. And PhDs are normally 3 or 4 years. Right. But they have to do a mandatory 3-month placement in industry. And it's kind of this two-way try before you buy. We get exposure to these bright young biological sparks, and they get exposure that they wouldn't otherwise have had to industry, which from a science perspective is a bit of a dirty word, but they start working in industry and realize, you know what, it's actually pretty cool. And that is one of the healthiest recruitment pipelines that we've got.
No, it's really interesting. And I guess, Jeremy...
I was going to say, is it that it's cool, or is it that you somehow make biology cool? You feel it feels like I'm excited to know about biology, and you kind of
Mate, you don't need to be cool and I am far from cool. You don't need to be cool to make biology sexy. It is so sexy, right? So software is
that. Hold on. Stop just there. Right.
Well,
Shane,
I've seen that YouTube video of him singing on his little guitar thing, so I know he's not cool.
You don't need to be cool to make biology sexy.
That could be that's the title for the video.
That's a great line.
That's the title for the video.
I
like that. Yeah. I like that a lot. But I was just going to say, Jeremy, just throwing this back to you for a second. You recruit a lot of people locally, and what Harry's talking about having some sort of strategy and foresight into a talent pipeline, I guess is pretty fundamental, right?
Yeah.
For longevity in a business.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the challenges that Harry may have may be slightly different from us, especially from a technology side. If I look at my technology business rather than the other side, which, as you know, we're growing, we've now got people based, outside of Somerset and some outside the UK. And as you know, we built a product in the last year completely remotely using all these amazing people from different counties and different countries. So actually, as we go forward, I'm thinking that, to build my technology team, actually the need to be local, I think we've broken down that barrier and we don't need that anymore. So it allows us the opportunity to go and cast our net wide. But equally, that's interesting, right? Because we were chatting before the show, and that has a detrimental effect, doesn't it, in terms of...
well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a
right?
micro business, so I'm definitely the other end of the spectrum in terms of size. But we're looking for a software developer at the moment. And we're a remote business, which means the theory is that I can recruit from anywhere. I don't care where they live. As long as they've got good internet, they're good to go. However, when you start feeding in salary expectations, depending on where you are around the UK, and let's just say, for example, that I am looking to recruit someone that is based in the UK, it's really interesting because actually it's not quite so nationwide as you think when you think of remote workers, because all of a sudden if I put out there that I'm looking for a software developer, you can be anywhere in the UK, and let's say that I'm looking for someone I'm willing to pay up to, I don't know, let's just say £35,000. Well, actually, I'm still fairly localized in my search, because if I end up receiving a CV from a candidate that's based in Berkshire or in the Southeast or anywhere like that, the salary expectations are going to be much more than what I am able to offer. So actually what I found is when I was proactively stalking people on LinkedIn and trying to do a little bit of sort of proactive work on our behalf, I actually found myself searching in the Somerset and Southwest region because I knew that I might be more likely to find someone at that salary expectation than I would be if I just cast my net as far wide as, you know, here to London or whatever. So that's kind of an interesting thought on the idea of recruitment within the context of remote. I didn't really think of before I started this.
On the subject of people, Harry, I know that you won the Somerset Business Award, I think, a couple of years ago.
2019.
Last year.
Somerset.
For one of the best companies or best employee. And I know from chatting with you and what you know, I know you're really focused on your people. So can you bring that to life at all? And what are the sort of things that, you know, the sort of things that make people want to work for you? You know, the candidates that are potentially listening out there, you know, besides it being a really cool industry, what sort of things are you doing with your people?
If you're in the Shire,
make you a great place to work?
And you want to attract top talent away from what they're used to, you have to offer something special. So we spend a lot of time thinking about culture. We spend a lot of time getting our salaries up to not local competitiveness, but we're trying to go for national competitiveness.
Yeah.
So we can attract top talent with financial incentive, geographical incentive, and cultural incentives. And those cultural incentives are really powerful. So we spend a lot of time thinking about workplace culture.
You strike me as a sort of guy in the sort of company that may have a foosball table. Do you have one?
You know I've got a foosball table, right? And I will kick your ass at foosball if you want to challenge me.
So let me just tell you, we used to sponsor team. CCG here are so into table football, right? We've got about 4 professional tables. We used to sponsor Team GB, and they came down. And we even got them the tracksuits and everything. We did it for about 4 years. We did it. So we play competitions. We haven't played for a while, actually. We're really into it. I probably fell into the top 10, right? And the top 3 were awesome. Team GB came down. Oh my God, they absolutely destroyed us. They come down with like these gloves and these elastic bands they put around the handles, so they can get so they get.
It's the guys with the bum bags, with the wraps in the bum bags. They come and they have a look at your Firebird table or whatever it is, right? And they start oiling up the rods before they play you. You know you're going to get spanked if they get the wraps out and the oil out.
Yeah. I do feel there's a Singer Claims Consortium.
I think there is. We used to be on the local competition circuit, and
so did we. Bristol,
that's right. The Bristol team, who I think were world champions at one point as well, they came down to play us, and they absolutely tore us apart. We also played another team, and I had a one-on-one game with someone who only had one arm, and she was amazing. She was controlling defense with her knee and using her able arm to get around the pitch, and she smashed me. It was entertaining to be humiliated in that way. It was cool.
I don't think I'll be able to fit a foosball table in this little box that I reside in. So major office FOMO.
I've got one at home. I'm teaching Harry, my little Harry.
I just wanted to ask. I don't think I've really come across many business owners or any business owners that have come from a kind of family business. And so just thought it'd be interesting to find out kind of, you know, from what I've read, it's Singer Instruments is a 3rd generation family business. Any sort of thoughts on what that's like? You know, pros and cons and any lessons you've learned along the way? Family dynamics and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, it brings with it a nice bit of history, and you can play on that as a marketing tool. Yeah. My grandfather set the business up in 1934, crazy, beardy, pipe-smoking dude who used to walk around barefooted all the time. He worked alongside my father, and there was a lot of friction between them. My grandfather was very dictatorial. My father had very strong opinions as well. So there was a whole bunch of friction. So it wasn't until my grandfather died that my father felt that he could really take the business on. He employed my grandmother, and there was friction there. He employed his sister and his brother, and there was loads of friction there. I came on board. My aunt, my uncle, and my father were working in the business. I kind of just kept my head down for a bit. There was growing friction between me and my dad as he promoted me to managing director above my aunt and my uncle, which can't have been easy for them. And it put me in a difficult position as well. But my aunt retired, my father sadly passed away. So it's just me and my uncle and some silent family shareholders. My uncle is running a small team in Germany. He's an amazing guy and we get on really, really well in small doses. So it's
Hence
quite
why
good
you
that
fished him off, shipped him out to Germany, is it?
Let me get this straight. I did not ship him off to Germany. It was his choice. He wanted to get away from me. He wanted to get away from me.
So that's interesting, though. So, but on pressure-wise, so, you know, does that mean that, and maybe this is not something you want to talk about, but does that mean that there is never an exit strategy for you? Is your exit strategy
there are loads of
babies
exit
and
strategies,
passing it on to
right?
your kids?
Our main strategy is not to exit so that it could go to a fourth generation, right? But there are so many spin-out opportunities or carve-out opportunities to be had. And we've got this legacy of and team who are really experienced in our field. So yeah, there's loads of opportunity to exit.
Without exiting.
And what about do you with that sort of strong sense of family history, I could imagine that there might be that kind of expectation for you not to be the one that ballses it up, you know, and messes it up, and you know.
That's a really good point. If you Google third generation family businesses, apparently only 5% of them survive.
Really?
Right?
Wow.
So there's massive pressure not to mess it up.
Yeah.
I tell you what comes to mind while we're talking about family dynamic is something I found really interesting, which is leadership. So my father was a really dictatorial leader, right? All major decisions had to go through him. And I saw that as a major weakness of the company. It reduced its scalability. So my leadership style is way less dictatorial most of the time, and way more kind of coaching and empowering. I don't want to have to make decisions. It's tiring, and I'm not best placed to make decisions. The people on the coalface are the best place to make most of the decisions. So transitioning a staff who are used to the dictatorial way of management, and they think that's good leadership, right? To the type of leadership that I think is good leadership, which is empowering and having other people make the decisions, was a really interesting transition.
Right. Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking my language, and I definitely agree with everything that you've said. And I think that's a generation thing, wasn't it? I mean, when you go back to that hierarchy that you're talking about, it goes all the way back to you know, when they were sort of building railways, and it was the Industrial Revolution that actually you needed that hierarchy to get that stuff done. But as technology's evolved, people have evolved, culture's evolved, it's transferred, and so I do think there's a historical thing. But I agree. I mean, I honestly share your view, and I think quite passionately that people that don't have that view won't survive, because it's, you know, the world isn't made like that anymore, and you know, people can, you know, your business is your people, right? No matter, and that sounds cheesy, but we're all business people here. It doesn't matter whether we're a micro business, global business, or insurance, right? We're all business people, and it is our people. So you've got to have that view, and like you say, at the end of the day, those decisions, those ideas, the really good ones, are from the people on the ground floor.
Well, actually, this segues quite nicely onto my next question that I like to ask, and it's for those, you know, that are watching that might be just sort of getting into their careers, or anyone really, you know, I think there can be some sort of ambiguity as to what a CEO is. and it would be good to know kind of, what is, you are the CEO of your business, and what does being a CEO mean to you, and what does your sort of day-to-day activities actually realistically look like?
Right, there's a couple of questions there. One is, what is a CEO? The truth is, I'm still working that out. And I'm using all the brains I can beg, borrow and steal to work that out, including my staff. I'm always asking them, how can I support you better? Challenge me to become a better mentor, friend, boss, to do my job better. So I'm using all the brains I can possibly get. I read books, some books that have inspired me recently to understand what it is I'm supposed to be doing. I love Radical Candor by Jill Scott. That was really
I know
nice.
that book.
I think as British people, we are naturally beat around the bush and don't like confrontation, right? But it's every time you avoid confrontation or avoid telling someone how you actually expect them to behave versus how they did behave, you rob them of an opportunity to grow. So I'm always encouraging my staff to pick me up on elements where I've not performed well, because if they don't, they're robbing me of an opportunity to grow. So I really like that book.
Yeah, it's a very popular book.
In this very quickly changing kind of tech landscape, we're trying to cultivate this meritocracy, right, Jeremy? We want people to make the right decisions. And we want to reward the people who are doing the best work. It's often the people who talk loudest who get rewarded because they get noticed. So I'm looking for some really agile, scalable, simple practices which help translate strategy into tactical plans and help reward the best performers, even if they're not the loudest people and the best at selling themselves. So I really like the book. I've just read it. It's called Measure What Matters. It's all about objectives and key results. So I'm practicing objectives and key results right now, in the hope that some of the teams that I support will start practicing that process as well. Day-to-day job. What is my day-to-day job?
I love this one because you work in the biology industry, you're messing around with robots and 3D printers and stuff, but actually your role might not be like that on a day-to-day basis, for those that are kind of not sure what it is that a CEO does on a day-to-day basis.
Yep, so let's take this quarter, for example. I've got 3 objectives. One, which is in line with reduce barriers to growth, is fit out the new building and facilitate a smooth transition from our existing building to the new building. So I put a lot of focus in making that a really cool workspace. Another one is the barriers to growth, which is funding. So right now, I'm trying to raise about £10 million to help supercharge a new project we're working on. So I'm spending a lot of time trying to understand the investment landscape, which is a totally different language to biology, I tell you. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Last night I was on a conference call to 250 VCs in the Bay Area, talking this weird, really supercharged, energetic language that was incredibly inspiring, but at the same time quite frightening. The other barrier to growth for us right now is recruitment. So I'm trying to put in some new teams. And so I'm helping support my guys as best as possible on the recruitment front. So they're my kind of top level objectives for this quarter. What do I actually find myself doing most of the time? Yeah, those top level objectives, because they're the most important things to the business. That and supporting my team. So I've just upped the cadence of my one-on-one meetings. To see if I can add more value on a one-on-one basis to the team that I support.
No, really, really interesting. And Jeremy, I don't think I've ever asked you that question.
An easy answer is I agree with a lot of what Harry said. Just from a slightly different angle, I see one of my roles as a CEO as to make the services that we do irrelevant. Right? And that always throws people. But ultimately, if I can make our services irrelevant, it means I've disrupted my industry, and it means that I've avoided someone else coming in doing the same.
It's
Therefore,
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what I see my role as.
My little thought on this is that obviously I've got a different set of challenges.
Cannibalization.
When you're a small team, there's only 3 of us, and we're hoping for a 4th soon. It's kind of like I'm still in that situation where I recognise that to grow a business, you need to move away from being solely responsible for the day-to-day, so you can carve out time to actually look and think and read and visualize and all those things. But at the same time, when you're such a small team, carving out the time to do those things, it's like you're then missing out on actually doing the coalface stuff. So it's like trying to balance your time between actually bringing in the revenue, which in my case is doing client work and making websites and stuff, but also trying to find the time to really grow the business and be in that kind of seat as what you two are describing. It's very challenging.
That is really difficult transition. Delegating the stuff that you think you're really good at to someone else is really difficult, but it is so important because you have to make time for that bigger picture thinking and the strategic elements. Naturally, I don't think I would. If I didn't have an amazing team around me, people like Jack on our sales and marketing team, who's kind of transitioning to strategy, he's forced us all to spend more time and dedicate time to thinking about the bigger picture and the strategy. If he didn't force me to do that, I think I'd be in the trenches and naturally thinking my best efforts are spent doing as opposed to thinking, and it's wrong. So it's really important to get that team around you, people with different mindsets who can attack the challenge from different perspectives. If you don't have those different perspectives, I think, personally, I would really struggle.
An example of that in my business career is that my business grew exponentially once my first wife left me and I became a single parent. And I had to stop working in the business. So instead of working like 16 hours a day, I went to I had a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. So I was, all of a sudden I had summer holidays, I had 9 to 3 o'clocks. So I had to employ a management team at a very early stage. And one could say, it was the delegation and the management team. One could also argue the less I had with the business, the better it was.
I think in my case, it's a bit of both.
I haven't quite got to the bottom of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. That's a good point. That's very interesting.
So I've got one more question, and we're probably looking to wrap up soon. But what's the big picture for you? Yeah, I think you've covered a lot of it, but I mean what we like to call one of my favourite expressions, North Star. The big picture. Resources. If resources were no issue, finance was no issue. The place that you are aiming for, whether that's
it's all about the
science.
We're so excited.
What does that place
at
look
the prospect of building with biology? It's such an incredible field. Software development's quite cool, but it's zeros and ones. Biology's A's, G's, C's and T's. It's so much more versatile. A cell, right? Think about a cell. It's way more sophisticated than any human industrial endeavors. It's green, right? It's self-replicating. It's eco-friendly. It's such a powerful thing. And you can reprogram cells and organisms if you want to do some really cool stuff that benefits humanity, benefits the world. So I'm all about accelerating that research and empowering scientists to build with biology. And I think there's we're quite ambitious. Our vision is to become the most trusted provider of laboratory robotics for laboratories. And trust is all about reliability. So building with biology is this incredibly interesting inflection point right now where everybody's just recognizing how powerful this revolution could be. A bit like just before silicon took off. Everyone's recognizing the power of biology. It's still a bit Wild West, but Biologists need the tools. They need this interconnected stack of tools that you get in software, but doesn't quite exist in biology yet. So it's a really, really interesting place to be right now.
Wow. Well, I'm sold. That sounds awesome.
I can see why you've been at schools and how you,
Oh,
you
great,
know, how
great
kids
question
would
from
engage with that.
schools.
You,
One of my last
we need to get you
questions
into the
was,
schools more.
does Spider-Man exist? Can you get spider silk coming out of your arm? And no, you can't, but you can. We do understand now the genetic pathways responsible for the production of the spider silk protein in spiders. And there are 2 companies that are using those genetic pathways and hacking them into yeast. And they're using yeast, just like you'd brew an IPA, to brew spider silk. Wow. Right, so Spiber, who we supply to, they are based in Japan. They're selling spider silk, which is this renewable synthetic fabric.
And the name of the company was called Spiber.
Spiber, yeah. They're selling to North Face. Bulk
Love
Threads, who are Californian, I think, they are selling to Stella McCartney and Patagonia. So
cool.
Biology is hitting domestic markets.
Wow, that is really, really interesting. Cool, I love that. So, okay, so I'm 18 years old. I'm just about to start university. I've just seen this video and I want to be just like Harry. I've got the t-shirt. I've just bought some glasses. What courses should I be doing at university if I want to either be in your team or literally start a company very much like yours? Is it engineering? Is it computer science? Is it biology? What do I do? How do I get there?
Grab what interests you most. If you want to work for me or a similar company, you can't go wrong if you do mathematics.
Right.
Study maths or study biology, get some foundations. They're things that are much harder to pick up later in life. So what's the point of mathematics? What's the point of a foundation in biology? They're not applied. I can't make money straight away. No, but you can get a solid foundation. And once you've demonstrated that you have the capacity to learn something that is really quite challenging, then you've demonstrated to a future employer, that you can probably put your mind to anything you want to. Software, you can't, if that doesn't float your boat, a classical degree in biology or maths or something, then you can't go wrong playing with software. Just start to hack. You know, Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, they're really cheap. There are loads of tools online on browsers that help teach you how to program. There aren't enough software developers to go around, so you can't go wrong if you pursue software development of any type. Engineers, there aren't enough engineers to go around, so you wouldn't go wrong doing an engineering degree either.
Right, good tip, good to know. That's really good, really good. And what was my other question that I like to ask? So could you, could you summarize maybe sort of 3 lessons that you've learned in your sort of journey so far?
I really liked your question, which is, what would you tell your younger self?
All right, well, that one will do.
I'd love to go back in time, and if I was able to talk to myself, I think I'd look myself straight in the eye and tell myself, you're wrong. You're most probably wrong, right? 50% of the time, you're probably wrong, mate. Get used to that and embrace it. When you are wrong, use it as an opportunity to learn. Embrace being wrong, because every time you admit it is an opportunity to learn. So I think I tell my arrogant former self that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like really good advice. Yeah, I think I would tell my former self that as well. I think, that figuring it out along the way is sort of part of the fun, and getting it wrong is sometimes part of the fun as well. Cool. No, really, really good. Unless Jeremy's got any more questions, perhaps we'll wrap this up. 45 minutes has absolutely flown by.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. I feel really excited. Shane, we've got to stop doing these on a Friday afternoon, because I'm feeling, again, really pumped and excited. And I just want to get back to work now, and it's the weekend.
Guys,
Yeah,
I bow
no,
down to you. You're
know,
an absolute
as
legend.
always,
You
it's
made
a
this really
pleasure to
fun.
speak to
You're
Harry.
developing
You're doing
a
amazing
really
stuff.
cool community, a community that I want to hang out with. You're making lots of interactions possible. So I really, really appreciate it. Thanks ever so much for everything you do. It's really cool.
Yeah, Harry, I just want to say thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm sure that all of our audience would very much appreciate what you had to say today. I think there was something in there for everybody, whether you're in the industry or interested in maybe learning a little bit about Singer Instruments and what sort of stuff you get up to. So thank you ever so much for coming. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. We're only a small little YouTube channel and we're trying to grow it. So we'll be releasing our next episodes in the next couple of weeks. So please stay tuned and subscribe to get notified. And thanks ever so much for Harry. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining us. And we will see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Legends. Cheers, guys.